What's up and welcome back to Interpreting the Stars. Today we're bringing it back to our Has Fallen trilogy rewatch with London Has Fallen. Before I get into this review, I want to first state that when I saw it in the theater, I loved it. It blew my mind, but there is a good reason for that because I went with a coworker friend of mine and he was kind of outwardly excited about everything that was happening in it, and I really do mean everything. He would just bust out an imaginary gun and start shooting all the bad guys on the screen and everything, and it was pretty fortunate that the theater was relatively empty, or else we might have had a problem on our hands. But I did have a great time that night because the experience as a whole was a bit influenced by my friend's own excitement. I haven't seen it since, and I can tell you that my score has dropped a bit when I rewatched it. The original score I gave it was 88%, and I won't tell you the new score until later on, so stick around for that. For now, what's this movie about? London Has Fallen once again follows around our hero Mike Banning as he once again must protect the President of the United States, only this time it's in London. After a leader of another nation unexpectedly dies, the President heads over to London to attend to his funeral with practically everybody else in the UN. That's when a coordinated attack is placed on these leaders, on London attractions, and on civilians on the streets. It's absolute mayhem, and it's coming from every direction. Mike Banning must protect the President against the impossible odds of never knowing who to trust in the middle of this foreign country. So my initial excitement for this film is definitely centered around my experience with the first act. That first act is absolutely insane in the best possible way. It is unpredictable. It is unstoppable. It doesn't allow the audience to breathe. It's hard to explain. My jaw was on the ground. It is so good that I think my original score actually forgave everything else in the movie because of it. I could probably sit here for hours replaying that first act over and over again because it's just that insane. And you know what? In general, the movie is a non-stop action thrill ride. It's really uncommon for there to be moments in the movie that actually allow you to catch your breath because something else pops up with Mike and the President have to deal with, and it just never ends, which can be seen as really good, but also not so much at the same time. Because while all three acts have non-stop action and thrills, I personally only remember the things that happened in the first act. Everything else I forgot, and that's because the first act is probably the most personal. In a way, it's intimately attached to what little story we were already attached to, like how Mike Banning is expecting a child soon, and how he's contemplating leaving the Secret Service. Those things are fresh in your mind when the attacks begin, which kind of creates this cocktail of excitement, right? But after a while, your cocktail begins to get a little bit stale, which is what the second and third act basically consists of. Stale cocktail. It's technically good action, but it runs into that rare occurrence when high-octane action isn't enough, it's not that engaging, and I think the reason behind that is because an action-heavy as this film is, there's not much story or character development to ground it. In a way, it's kind of two-dimensional. It's fun enough to watch, but after it's done, you might easily forget what actually happens, which is how it worked for me. I'll never say it's as bad as some critics have put it out to be, since no matter what, I had a great time with it, but it definitely has some faults. I mean, other than what I've already mentioned about a lack of real story depth and just two-dimensional action, the film doesn't flesh out the characters. There's a lot of expendable bogeys. The people that had a little bit more screen time and importance in the first film are there as kind of a gimmick in this one, and once again, the visuals aren't amazing. I think the visuals in the first were worse off since you got a closer look at them than in London Has Fallen, which had a lot of stuff happening in the distance, but you can still tell that it's not perfect, and whenever you can tell a certain special effect is fake, there's just no disconnect from reality. You know it's production from that point forward, which also affects your overall experience with the movie. That being said, the action is still a priority in the film, and having enough material in a film to keep its status as non-stop action is still definitely something you should praise, because I imagine it would take a lot of work to shoot and edit just one action scene, let alone a whole movie's worth of material. Take that as you will. Guys, I rated London Has Fallen 74%. 74 out of 100 possible stars, which is 14% lower than my original score. I still say that first act is awesome, but without a solid second or third act that feel equally as important and exciting, the film doesn't stand a chance as much as I remember it standing. What did you think about London Has Fallen? Give me your scores down below. And as for YouTube, you know what to do. Hit the subscribe button if you like what you saw and would like to see some more like it. Hit the thumbs up button, as that always helps out my channel. And don't forget about that little bell icon, which helps notify you when I come out with my next review. But until then, peace!